They say power destroys love. But I didn't think it would destroy mine. I met Arita Kenzu on a rainy morning in Tokyo. Back then, I wasn't anyone special. Just a man running a small cafe on a quiet street near Shibuya Station. We sold coffee, buttered breadcrumbs, and a few sweet things I baked at dawn. The sign above the door said Haru's Corner. I used to think it sounded warm. Now it just sounds naive. He came in every day at the same time, 8:15 a.m. Always in a dark suit, tie perfectly straight, phone pressed to his ear. He never smiled. He'd sit at the same window table, order black coffee, and read the morning paper like he was judging the whole world. Rough morning again, sir? I'd tease when I brought his cup. He'd look up, the corner of his mouth twitching. Politics, he'd say. It never sleeps. That was the first time I saw a trace of a smile on his face. It was small, but it stayed with me. Weeks passed. Then months. And somehow, between coffee cups and small talk, his presence started to fill my mornings. He'd linger longer after meetings, talk about reforms, about how people in power never understood the poor. I liked that side of him, the human one, hidden beneath ambition. One evening, after closing time, I saw him standing outside in the rain. No umbrella, just standing there, staring through the window. I went out, holding one above him. "You'll catch a cold," I said. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Maybe I already did from you." That was the night everything started. We married a year later. He said he wanted to protect me, that I didn't need to work anymore. He bought me a car, an apartment, and silence. At first, I thought it was love, his way of keeping me safe from the chaos of his world. But soon, the walls began to close in. "Why do you still go to that cafe?" he asked one night as he loosened his tie. "Because it's mine," I said. "Haru, you don't need to work. People will talk. Let them talk." He slammed the table. "You're my husband. I don't want you serving strangers for coins." His words stung. Not because of what he said, but because of how little he saw me. All he saw was his image. Polished, perfect, untouchable. And I was the flaw in it. I kept the cafe open anyway. Even when he stopped visiting. Even when he stopped smiling. When the offer came, a collaboration with a famous chain, I thought it was a miracle. For the first time, Haru's Corner became a name people knew. My picture was in the paper. Customers lined up outside. But that night, when I showed him the article, Kenza didn't congratulate me. Instead, he said quietly, "Be careful. Fame changes people." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. Months later, I was asked to speak at a local town hall. About small business rights, tax reform, things I believed in. I went. I spoke from the heart. People listened. And somehow, I was asked to run for local governor. When I told him, he laughed. "You? Yes, me. You think politics is a hobby, Haru? It's not. It's blood and teeth." "I know," I said softly. "I've seen you bleed." That silenced him for a moment. Then he muttered, "Don't do this." But I did. The campaign was brutal. He refused to support me publicly, saying it would confuse the media. But I knew what it really meant. He didn't want me near his world. Still, I won. By a small margin, but I won. That night, I looked for him in the crowd. He wasn't there. When I came home, the house was dark. He was sitting in the living room, drink in hand. "Congratulations, Governor," he said, voice flat. "Thank you." He looked up, eyes cold. "Enjoy your little victory. But don't forget who taught you to stand." Aiko, our daughter. She was born in spring, the season of new beginnings. She had his eyes and my stubbornness. For a while, she was the glue that held us together. Her laughter filled the empty spaces in our home. She'd run between us shouting, "Papa! Daddy! Look what I drew!" And for those few moments, we were a family again. But power doesn't rest. And neither did envy. By the time I announced my run for vice president, our marriage was already splintered. He was running for prime minister. The headlines called it the house divided. Behind the smiles and public kisses, we barely spoke at home. Two rivals sharing one roof. The worst night came after a televised debate. He accused me of being too emotional for leadership. I accused him of forgetting what it means to feel. When the cameras turned off, we went home in silence. Aiko followed us quietly, clutching her little stuffed rabbit. At dinner, the argument exploded. "You're making me look weak," he shouted, slamming his glass on the table. "And you're making me feel invisible." I fired back. "I built you, Haru. Without me, you'd still be serving coffee." I stood up. And without me, you'd still be human. The glass shattered. Aiko screamed. I turned just in time to see her burst into tears, tiny hands shaking. Stop! Stop fighting! She cried, running to the middle of the table. Kenzu reached for her first. Come here, sweetheart. No. I want Papa, she sobbed, running to me instead. He grabbed her arm. Don't turn her against me. I held her other hand. You're scaring her, Kenzu. Then let go. She's my daughter too. She's mine, he roared. I carried this family. And I carried her. I shouted back, tears breaking free. Aiko screamed louder, trying to pull free, little fingers trembling between us. Stop. Please. Both of you. Her voice cracked, small, broken, terrified. That sound sliced through me like glass. We froze. She dropped to the floor, crying into a rabbit. I looked at him. This man I once loved more than life, and saw only a stranger. He looked back with the same emptiness. The silence that followed was worse than the shouting. That night, he slept in the guest room. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter. No goodbye. Just 6 words. You made your choice. So did I. And that's how the war began. They say silence is another kind of weapon. In our house, it became the loudest one. After that night, Kenzu and I stopped pretending. No more shared breakfast. No more goodnight kisses for the cameras. He moved into the west wing of the house. I stayed in the east with Aiko. The mansion felt like 2 countries sharing one border. Yet in public, we smiled. We held hands at fundraisers, kissed on stage, and waved like nothing was broken. Tokyo loved the image of the power couple. But at home, our love had turned into strategy. The first blow came from the newspapers. Governor Minami under investigation for misuse of campaign funds. My coffee cup slipped from my hand when I saw the headline. A leak, false receipts, forged signatures, planted perfectly. Only one person could have arranged that. And he was sitting across the breakfast table reading the same paper, perfectly calm. I asked, "Did you do this?" He didn't look up. Politics is a dirty game, Haru. You should have known before you joined it. You could have warned me instead of destroying me. He finally looked up, eyes cold. You destroyed yourself when you decided to compete. That day, I learned what kind of enemy love can become. The investigation cleared me within a month. But the damage was done. People whispered. Donors hesitated. So I struck back. I exposed the private foundation he'd hidden under a friend's name. Legal, but morally gray. It was petty. It was cruel. But it was the only language we spoke now. Aiko started drawing pictures of broken hearts. When I asked what they were, she said, "It's you and Daddy, but you're on different sides." She was only 4, yet she understood more than any adult advisor around us. At night, she'd sneak into my room, crawling under the blanket. "Papa," she'd whisper, "why don't you and Daddy eat together anymore?" I'd lie, "We're busy with work." But she'd sigh, then stop working. "I just want you to laugh again." I couldn't promise that. Even lies felt heavy. When the custody petition arrived, it felt like a thunderclap. He'd filed it first. He accused me of neglect, of emotional instability, of being unfit due to political stress. He claimed Aiko cried when she was with me. He brought witnesses, nannies, drivers, even my secretary. Money buys loyalty. I couldn't compete with that kind of wealth. My lawyer said, "We'll fight back." I nodded, but inside I was breaking. The day of the first hearing, Tokyo's sky was a bruised gray. Cameras flashed as we walked in from opposite doors, me holding Aiko's hand, him flanked by aides. Inside the courtroom, it was all procedure, questions, documents, recorded statements. But when they called Aiko to the stand, every wall inside me cracked. She sat on the small chair, feet dangling. The judge spoke gently. "Aiko, can you tell us how things are at home?" She looked at both of us, eyes wide, confused. "Sometimes Papa and Daddy yell," she said. "Does anyone hurt you?" She shook her head fast. "No, they just pull me when they fight. I don't like it. I cry and they stop." My throat burned. Ken's eyes flickered, just once, with guilt. When she finished, she looked at the judge and whispered, "Can I live where you both laugh again?" No one answered. That night, I confronted him in the hallway. "Even after hearing her, you still want to keep this going?" He said quietly, "You think I'll let you ruin my image by taking her?" "I'm not ruining your image. I'm trying to save our child." He stepped closer. "You can have everything else, Haru, your cafe, your position, but not her." I met his stare. "Then you'll lose everything." The campaign season for the national election began. Tokyo turned into a battlefield of posters, screens, and slogans. We were no longer spouses, we were headlines. He gave interviews saying he wanted to protect family values. I spoke about building homes where love means equality. Every speech was a coded message to each other. Every debate a personal war. Behind the scenes, our lawyers fought over Aiko's custody. Rumors spread that I bribed the court. Others said he threatened officials. Truth no longer mattered, only who shouted louder. The custody verdict came late on a Friday evening. The judge ruled in my favor. Full custody to me, visitation rights to him once a week. The room spun when I heard it. Not from joy, there was none, but from relief mixed with grief. He stood perfectly still, jaw tight. When we stepped outside, reporters swarmed. He smiled for the cameras. I didn't. That night, he came to the house for his things. Aiko was in her room, hugging her rabbit. I waited in the living room, watching him gather papers and cuff links. He stopped by the door. Congratulations, Vice President-to-be. I said nothing. He turned halfway, eyes burning. Enjoy your victory, Haru. But remember, power never keeps you warm at night. I looked straight at him. Neither did you. He left without another word. When the results were announced 2 weeks later, I won the election. Tokyo cheered. Fireworks filled the sky. But the only sound I heard was Aiko's quiet breathing as she slept beside me. I looked at her small hand resting on mine and whispered, I won, Aiko. But it feels like losing. I won, Aiko. But it feels like losing. The words lingered long after she'd fallen asleep. Outside, Tokyo was still celebrating. Cameras flashed, speeches blared, champagne flowed. But I sat in the dark, listening to the rain against the window, wondering what victory really meant. The first weeks as vice president were chaos. Every meeting, every press conference, every handshake, people called me a symbol of progress, of equality. They didn't know I'd traded my soul for it. Sometimes, in the middle of a cabinet briefing, I'd catch myself glancing at the small photo on my desk, Aiko's smile, frozen in a world before everything cracked. My chief of staff once said, Sir, you need rest. I smiled, polite, practiced. Rest is for people who have someone waiting at home. Kenza didn't appear in public for a while. Rumors said he'd left Tokyo, retreating to a family estate near the coast. Others claimed he was planning a political comeback. But I knew him too well. He was licking his wounds in silence, the way predators heal before striking again. Still, every Saturday he came for visitation. He'd arrive right on time, dressed in his usual tailored suit, carrying gifts for Aiko. I'd watch from the balcony as she ran into his arms, laughing. Then she'd look up and wave at me, shouting, Papa, come play too. And I'd wave back, pretending my chest didn't ache. One evening, after dropping Aiko off, he lingered by the gate. Do you ever sleep? He asked quietly. I looked at him, surprised. Why do you care? Because you look like you haven't in weeks. I almost smiled. Neither have you. He sighed, hands in his pockets. She misses you, even when she's with me. You know that. She misses us, I corrected. He nodded slowly. Yeah, us. For a moment, there was no war between us. Just two men standing under the same streetlight, haunted by what they'd broken. Then his phone rang, and the spell shattered. He turned away before I could say anything. Months passed. Aiko started school, her laughter filling the house again. Sometimes she'd draw little family pictures, me, her, and Kenzu. In every drawing, we were holding hands. Once I asked, Why do you always draw us together, sweetheart? She looked up, innocent and certain. Because one day you will be. I didn't have the heart to tell her that some things don't heal. Not all wars end in peace. The following spring, scandal struck again, but this time, it wasn't about me. A video leaked of Kenzu at a private meeting with business donors, accepting gifts. Social media exploded. News anchors dissected it for days. His political career, already fragile, began to crumble. He didn't answer my calls. Then one night, Aiko burst into my study, clutching her tablet. Papa, Daddy's crying on TV. I turned on the screen. There he was, tired, unshaven, eyes red, as he announced his resignation. I've made mistakes, he said quietly. But the biggest one was forgetting why I started all this in the first place, family. That night, I drove to his apartment. He didn't expect me. When he opened the door, the smell of whiskey and rain filled the air. He looked smaller somehow, like the armor had fallen off. I didn't speak. I just walked past him and placed a small envelope on the table. Inside was a photo Aiko had drawn, 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. He stared at it for a long time. Then he whispered, "She still believes in us." "Yes," I said softly. "And I don't know how to tell her not to." He closed his eyes, tears glinting. "I'm sorry, Haru. For everything." For the first time, I believed him. The next weekend, we took Aiko to the park together. No cameras, no reporters, no stage. Just us, throwing a ball, laughing awkwardly, relearning the language of peace. She ran between us, giggling, holding both our hands. And for one fleeting moment, it felt like maybe, just maybe, love didn't die, it only changed its form. That evening, after dropping her off at her room, I found him standing by the doorway. "Do you think we'll ever get it right?" he asked. I looked at him and smiled faintly. "Maybe not perfectly, but at least we're trying." He nodded, and for once, there was no tension in his eyes. Only quiet acceptance. Weeks later, when the press caught sight of us at Aiko's school recital, sitting together, clapping, smiling, they called it the reunion of Tokyo's most powerful couple. They didn't know it wasn't a reunion. It was forgiveness. And that, I realized, was stronger than love. Sometimes winning means losing everything. But sometimes losing teaches you how to win back what truly matters.